Have you ever spent a quiet afternoon walking alone through an old forest? The kind of place where the noise of the outside world slowly fades behind you, until all that remains is the soft crunch of leaves beneath your feet and the distant rustle of wind moving through towering canopies overhead. Standing among ancient trees, their weathered trunks bearing the scars of countless seasons and storms, we often arrive at a simple conclusion. Each tree appears to stand alone, motionless, enduring the passage of time in quiet solitude. For generations, we have grown accustomed to seeing nature as a beautiful but disconnected still life, a world in which living things exist separately from one another, competing endlessly for sunlight and survival. But have you ever questioned that picture? What if everything we can see with our eyes is only the surface of a reality far more extraordinary than we ever imagined? Take a moment to picture the earth beneath your feet, beneath the blanket of moss, beneath stones softened by age and wrapped in lichen, beneath the damp scent of soil that rises after the rain. An unseen current of activity moves constantly through the darkness. Hidden there is a network so vast, so intricate, and so astonishing that scientists have compared it to an underground version of the internet itself. In that place where sunlight never reaches, trees have never truly been alone. They communicate, they share, they respond to one another. And sometimes, they engage in silent conflicts that unfold entirely beyond the limits of human perception. Can you hear the whispers beneath the soil? Welcome to the Hidden Root, where we journey into the secret life of forests and uncover the hidden connections that sustain the natural world. To understand those whispers, however, we must learn to look beyond the trunks and leaves that first capture our attention. The story of the forest does not begin above ground. It begins beneath it, with something so delicate and easily overlooked that few people would ever suspect its importance. During the 1990s, a series of scientific discoveries transformed the way researchers understood the very nature of forests. They found that trees were not isolated organisms after all. Their roots were linked through enormous underground fungal networks, an intricate system that would eventually become known by a name both poetic and unforgettable: the Wood Wide Web. These fungal threads, called mycelium, are astonishingly small, thousands of times finer than a strand of human hair. They move silently through the soil, slipping between grains of sand and weaving around rocks, intertwining with roots as they spread outward in every direction. Together, they create a living web that can stretch across entire forests, connecting tree to tree through pathways hidden beneath the earth. It is humbling to realize that during a simple walk through the woods, beneath every step you take, there may be miles upon miles of biological connections carrying nutrients, signals, and information through the darkness below. The relationship between trees and fungi is not a coincidence of nature, but one of its most elegant partnerships. Trees, reaching upward toward the sky, capture sunlight and transform it into energy through photosynthesis, producing sugars rich in carbon that sustain their growth and survival. Yet even the strongest roots have limits. They cannot explore every corner of the forest floor in search of water and minerals. This is where the fungal network reveals its remarkable role. Extending far beyond the reach of roots, mycelium gathers phosphorus, nitrogen, water, and other essential nutrients from the deepest and most inaccessible parts of the soil, transporting them back to the trees. In return, the trees share a portion of the sugars they have created through sunlight. It is a silent exchange that unfolds continuously beneath our feet, one form of life supporting another in a relationship shaped by mutual dependence. And yet, the wonder of this hidden network does not end with the exchange of resources. Increasingly, scientists have found evidence suggesting that these underground pathways may also function as channels of communication. When a tree is attacked by insects or threatened by disease, it releases chemical signals that travel through the fungal network into the surrounding forest. Nearby trees, though untouched by the danger themselves, appear capable of detecting these warnings. In response, they begin strengthening their own defenses, producing protective compounds and preparing for threats that have not yet arrived. The implications of such discoveries are difficult to ignore. A tree rooted at the edge of a forest may, in some way, influence the behavior of another standing far beyond our sight, not through sound, not through movement, but through invisible connections woven beneath the soil. Faced with this possibility, we are compelled to reconsider one of our oldest assumptions about the natural world. Perhaps forests are not merely collections of individual trees struggling alone for survival. Perhaps they are communities vast, interconnected systems shaped as much by cooperation as by competition. And if that is true, then the forests we have admired all our lives may be far more than silent landscapes of wood and leaves. They may be living conversations, unfolding patiently beneath our feet long before humanity ever learned to speak, and continuing even now, whether we choose to listen or not. Only after we begin to understand the existence of this hidden underground network do we realize that, much like any complex society, the forest may also depend on its elders, those quiet pillars of strength whose presence sustains the lives around them. Within this extraordinary world beneath our feet, scientists have identified what are often called mother trees, the oldest and largest trees in the forest, whose roots run deepest into the earth, and whose branches have stretched toward the sky through centuries of storms, droughts, fires, and changing seasons. If the fungal network functions like an immense system of communication lines, then these ancient giants may be its central hubs, connected to hundreds of younger trees through pathways hidden beneath the soil. Yet, perhaps the most astonishing and deeply moving aspect of these discoveries is the possibility that these old trees can distinguish between the seedlings around them, directing more resources toward those most vulnerable and, in some cases, even those that share their own genetic lineage. Imagine, for a moment, the fate of a young sapling struggling to survive beneath the dense canopy of an old-growth forest. Surrounded by towering trees that capture most of the available sunlight, its ability to produce energy through photosynthesis is severely limited. According to the unforgiving logic of natural competition, many of these fragile seedlings should simply wither away before they ever have the chance to grow. And yet, nature often reveals a tenderness we never expected to find. Through the underground fungal network, older trees appear capable of transferring carbon, sugars, and valuable nutrients to these struggling young saplings, offering them a lifeline during the most vulnerable stages of their existence. The very trees that have already secured their place in the forest seem to invest part of their own abundance in the survival of the next generation. It is difficult not to be moved by the image of an ancient tree, rooted firmly in the same patch of earth for centuries, quietly sending fragments of its own hard-earned energy into the darkness below so that a younger life might continue. There is no applause for such generosity, no recognition, no witness to these exchanges unfolding beneath layers of soil and stone. Year after year, hidden from sight, these silent giants continue the patient work of sustaining a future they themselves may never fully see. Beyond the sharing of nutrients, researchers have also observed evidence suggesting that older trees may help younger ones prepare for danger, transmitting chemical signals through the network when disease spreads or insect attacks threaten the forest. In this way, the oldest members of the ecosystem appear to serve not only as providers, but also as guardians, carrying the accumulated experience of survival through countless hardships. The lessons written into their long existence, the responses shaped by drought, infestation, and environmental stress may ripple outward through the community, strengthening those that have only just begun their journey. Standing before such possibilities, one cannot help but feel a profound sense of humility. For so long, we have regarded care, sacrifice, protection, and legacy as qualities uniquely human, believing that only we pass wisdom from one generation to the next through quiet acts of devotion and unseen acts of love. Yet beneath rough bark and weathered branches, hidden in the darkness beneath the forest floor, nature offers us another perspective. The oldest trees do not merely stand as monuments to their own survival, they remain part of something larger than themselves, connected to the fragile lives around them in ways we are only beginning to understand. And although scientists continue to debate exactly how these processes should be interpreted, cautioning us against projecting human emotions onto the natural world, the wonder of these discoveries remains undiminished. Whether driven by evolutionary necessity or ecological complexity beyond our current understanding, the result is no less extraordinary. The towering giants we admire from afar may also serve as bridges between past and future, quietly ensuring that life continues long after their own seasons draw to an end. Hidden beneath the stillness of the forest lies a truth older than civilization itself, a reminder that even the strongest among us may never have thrived entirely on our own, and that some of the most important connections in life are the ones we cannot see. And yet, if we choose to see the forest only through the lens of generosity and quiet devotion, we would be telling only half of its story. Nature has never been a place of perfect harmony. It is a delicate balance of opposing forces, where cooperation exists alongside competition, where creation walks hand in hand with destruction, and where survival often demands a level of ruthlessness that challenges our most comforting assumptions. The underground network we have come to admire as a symbol of connection and mutual support can, under different circumstances, become something else entirely. Hidden battlefield where silent conflicts unfold without mercy. Beneath the darkness of the forest floor, not every tree is a benevolent neighbor, and not every message carried through the network arrives as a warning meant to save. Some species have evolved to turn these very connections into weapons, exploiting the same pathways that sustain life in order to secure their own advantage. Consider the black walnut tree, a quiet and formidable strategist of the plant world. Rather than relying solely on competition for sunlight and space, it releases a chemical compound known as juglone into the surrounding soil. Through its roots and the intricate underground environment, this toxin spreads outward, interfering with the growth and survival of neighboring plants. Tomatoes, apple trees, and countless other species that wander too close may find themselves struggling to breathe, their internal systems disrupted as their vitality slowly fades away. It is a form of chemical warfare waged without movement, sound, or visible aggression, driven by a simple objective: eliminate competition and claim the resources necessary to thrive. But the harsh realities of the forest do not end there. Hidden among these networks are also those that have abandoned self-sufficiency altogether. Certain orchids and plants lacking chlorophyll possess little or no ability to produce energy through photosynthesis. Instead of gathering their own resources from sunlight, they have evolved strategies that allow them to tap directly into the underground exchange system established by others. Like unseen intruders slipping into a complex web of transactions, they connect themselves to the fungal network and quietly siphon carbon and nutrients from neighboring plants without offering anything in return. They survive not through cooperation, but through exploitation, drawing life from a system built by those around them. In many ways, they resemble parasites navigating an economy of abundance they did not help create. The deeper we look beneath the surface, the more the forest begins to resemble a society in all its complexity. Kindness and selfishness coexist. Sacrifice and greed emerge side by side. Mutual aid flourishes even as fierce competition persists in the shadows. There is no permanent peace beneath the soil, no simple narrative in which every living thing serves the greater good. Instead, there exists an ever-shifting balance maintained through countless interactions between competing needs and competing strategies. Perhaps this is precisely why forests have endured for millions of years. Nature has never depended upon moral perfection as humans define it. It does not reward virtue for its own sake, nor punish selfishness out of principle. What nature demands above all else is adaptation. The organisms capable of responding to changing circumstances, whether through cooperation, defense, innovation, or opportunism, are the ones that persist. And maybe that is the most unsettling lesson hidden beneath our feet. The same network capable of nurturing vulnerable seedlings can also become a channel for sabotage. The same connections that carry warnings of danger can be manipulated for individual gain. Life itself is rarely governed by absolutes. It unfolds instead within shades of complexity, where opposing truths exist simultaneously without canceling each other out. The forest is neither a utopia built upon endless generosity, nor a battlefield ruled entirely by ruthless competition. It is both. Within its unseen depths, compassion and conflict intertwine, each shaping the other, each contributing to the resilience of the whole. And it is through this constant tension, this silent struggle between giving and taking, between survival and sacrifice, that life, once again, discovers a way to endure and rise toward the light. As we move beyond the stories of mother trees and the hidden conflicts unfolding beneath the forest floor, we are left with something far more profound than scientific curiosity. Perhaps the greatest revelation of all is not simply that trees communicate, share resources, or compete for survival. It is the realization that the forest has never been what we believed it to be. From above, we see individual trunks rising from the earth, each occupying its own space beneath the sky. They appear separate, independent, and alone. Yet beneath the surface, hidden from view, their lives are woven together through countless invisible connections, supporting one another, responding to one another, and collectively forming something far greater than the sum of their individual existence. In studying these unseen networks, scientists have witnessed moments that are difficult to forget. As some ancient trees near the end of their lives, evidence suggests that they may redirect what remains of their stored resources back into the underground system, transferring carbon and nutrients into the community that will continue after them. The energy gathered through decades of standing beneath sun and storm does not simply vanish. Instead, it becomes part of an ongoing cycle, flowing outward into younger generations that will inherit the forest long after the old giants have fallen. There is a quiet dignity in that image final act, not of resistance against the inevitable, but of contribution. Even in decline, life continues to give life. And perhaps this is where the story of the forest ceases to be only about trees and begins to reflect something deeply human. In the modern world, many of us have learned to admire self-sufficiency above all else. We celebrate independence, resilience, and the ability to withstand hardship without relying on anyone around us. We convince ourselves that strength means standing alone, untouched by vulnerability, and free from dependence. Yet nature, after millions of years of experimentation and adaptation, seems to offer a different perspective. Even the tallest and strongest trees in the forest have never truly existed in isolation. Their survival has always depended, in ways both visible and unseen, upon a web of relationships extending far beyond themselves. Perhaps the most important forces shaping our lives are not always the ones we can point to directly. They may exist in the quiet support of family members who ask for nothing in return, in the kindness of strangers whose small gestures alter the course of another person's day, in friendships that carry us through seasons of uncertainty, or in the communities that sustain us even when we are too distracted to notice their presence. Like the hidden networks beneath the forest floor, many of the connections that define who we become remain invisible until we pause long enough to recognize. Thank you for spending these moments with me, listening to the whispers of the forest and wandering through one of nature's most extraordinary mysteries. Today's journey is only the beginning. There are countless stories still waiting beneath the canopy, hidden in the rivers, the mountains, the deserts, and the skies above us, stories that challenge what we think we know about the world and remind us how much wonder still surrounds us. If this story changed the way you see the trees outside your window, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And if you'd like to continue exploring the hidden worlds woven into everyday life, consider subscribing and joining me for the journeys ahead. Until we meet again, beneath another canopy of leaves and another untold mystery of the natural world, take care of yourself, stay curious, and never underestimate the quiet power of the connections that sustain us, even when we cannot see them.